I'm Stan Moody. I'm senior pastor of Columbia Street Baptist Church and founder and director of the Columbia Street Project. I started out as a graduate electrical engineer from the University of Maine. Worked for Eastman Kodak Company. They sent me to law school. I decided to go into the business world. So I went from there to working for large corporations and also developing my own small businesses. So until about 28 years ago, I was pretty much in business and politics. The Columbia Street Baptist Church is a downtown church, and downtown churches, you may be aware, are having difficulty these days. The church culture has been largely built from middle-class suburbanites. They haven't paid a lot of attention to the poverty class, people who are residing in the inner cities. Middle class has gone out to the suburbs to church, and we were left with this situation, which I think is directing us more toward the way the church ought to be, Matthew 25, where we pay attention to people in need and give them a hand up. So the Columbia Street Baptist Church in years past had purchased a building, 11,000 square foot building next door that had gone into gross disrepair. So we raised the money to repair it. And what were we going to do with it? Develop a new sense of ministry for downtown. Got to come up with new ideas. Well, the Columbia Street Project came out primarily out of my background. I've been a chaplain at Maine State Prison. I've been in politics. I've been involved in training people to become lay chaplains in prison ministry for a number of years. And so it seemed a logical place to go. Now, is it the way to go? Not necessarily, but it is a way to go, and we need other options to give the downtown church a new sense of direction. We work with the Penobscot County Sheriff's Department. We work with OHI, work with all the agencies. I've had meetings with all of them. We brought them in to share what we're trying to do and what they're trying to do, see if there's a mix and that we can collaborate with them. Putting together an arrangement with United Farmer Veterans of Maine, and they have 215 farms under their jurisdiction right now. So they will be physically located in our facility. And we're hoping to have that evolve into something that will enhance the mission there and also the mission of Columbia Street Baptist Church. So this partnership with the Farmer Veterans of Maine, United Farmer Veterans of Maine, is something that we treasure because they are already working with a more accepted group of people, and that is people returning from military service. The problems are exactly the same. I mean, you've got people coming from one environment to another, and it's a big shock, and the PTSD issues and all the other. I would say that, I would guess, although we haven't discussed this, but I would think that from Jerry's standpoint, you would be able to say that if you can't get settled in 6 months, probably you're going to be in trouble. And that's the same formula that's used with people coming out of prison. There's a shock. You're in a military environment. It's a very structured environment. Prison environment is a very structured environment. You come out into a far less structured environment. It's very difficult.
One other aspect of that has an impact is a lot of times it takes 9 months to a year for a veteran with PTSD to even realize after they get home that problem's there. And in many times it's not identified, it's not recognized by a spouse or family member. And that veteran ends up losing almost everything before the problem is even identified. I think our veteran organization has a real interest in the prison reintegration process as well, because many of our veterans inadvertently end up incarcerated. Yeah. And it's not because they came home from war and decided they were going to be a bad person and kill somebody or rob a bank. It's because the circumstances led to a domino effect. Right. That I don't know that any of us would handle it any different. Some of us might think, well, I wouldn't do that. But the reality is, put in the same situation. When a veteran comes home that's been in Afghanistan for 9, 12, 15 months, and they find that their wife is 7 months pregnant with someone else's baby, and they find that the boyfriend's been driving their truck the whole time they were gone, and the spiral response to that, restraining orders. You can't see your kids without a supervised visit because veterans are dangerous. But in the real reality of it, the spouse is really taking advantage of the system and using that veteran military status against that individual. And then drinking comes into the picture. And then the next thing you know, this friend of mine had 2 or 3 DUIs in about 45 days. Never had a problem, never had a criminal record. Now you're looking at some real time in jail. You've lost your job, you've lost your family, you've lost your house, and all 60 days from returning home.
I had the experience over and over and over again when I was a chaplain down at Maine State Prison, that people would come into me and their life was falling apart outside of the prison, and there's nothing they could do about it. Absolutely nothing. And you had to bring them into this concrete reality of what was going on, and help them to try to build a new life. So the synergism is incredible here. I mean, and what I like about it is because the public perception of a returning veteran is a lot higher. We've learned that lesson since Vietnam. Is a lot higher. It gives us momentum to do the kinds of things that we want to do, and to touch people's lives in a real way, and to build a church that is actively involved in people's lives.